move a deadly flow. Next gen rising, let it show. Eyes ahead, the rhythm calls. Stand up tall, we break the walls. Train it up, train it high. Next gen reaching for the sky. Push the limit, own us wide. This is how we're born to fly.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Next Gen Training here on the Sparta HQ Network. I'm Mr. Bennett, joined by my partner, as always, the coach. Certainly in the building tonight, and I'm liking the background there. You look like you're a superhero flying into space. You look like you're on a mission there, but you got the watch on, the military grade standard watch there. So you're looking pretty good, sir. How you doing?
What's up, brother Ben? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, man, just, I guess I can just deal with my AIs now since my body ain't old, strong like it used to be.
Mm.
I'm okay, man. It's Thursday. Rested a lot today.
Heard
Yeah,
that.
I rested a lot today. Shoot. Off and on, I can get up and go down when I want. My wife was out, so I was just able to just relax and not do too much. We might get some bad weather here, so
Mm.
I'm a little concerned about that just overnight.
Yeah.
So I'll see. Yeah, early in the year, a storm came through my neighbors. They side and was almost ripped off the whole side, but my house was undamaged at all. And so that was just a blessing. But just when things like it happen now, I'm more a little bit concerned because I would hate anything to go wrong and I have to get out there because I'm seeing all of these not hurricanes, but these tornadoes that have been touching down in this part of the country during this time of the year in that little central Ohio Valley along the Ohio River. It's quite a few tornadoes that touch down because
Yeah.
so just thinking about that. But, I have 6 appointments to the doctor coming up
Mm.
this within the last month in the next 30 days. So interesting to see how that goes. So yeah, but other than that, man, I ain't gonna lie. I'm always in good spirit. I just think about things and as they come and I gotta address them now. But yeah, I can go from smiling to telling jokes. And I say this and I said the one good thing about me and my wife being at home, we like each other and we like talking to each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes she'll just come in and just do something to get me sort of up and going, and then we'll go back and forth for 15-20 minutes just referencing certain things from the past, some things from the present,
Hmm.
anything, and then we'll just separate, and then 2 or 3 hours later we'll do the same thing. Now it's me coming in with my little little comedic conversation about life and things like that. And we might do that,
Mm.
shoot, 3 or 4 until I go to bed. My wife,
Right.
she's an early bird, but she may wake up and I'm still up. And then we'll do that until I usually go to bed. And if there's something to be taken care of outside of the house, we'll just get that done, you know. But as far as like the business aspect of it, she's perfect for that. And
Mhm.
I just let her do her thing, man. I just make sure ain't nothing falling apart and keeping, the resources that's needed in the house. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. Sounds good. Sounds good. For all those who are joining us tonight, I really appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you hit the like button, certainly, as you come into the show. Really helps us out as far as the algorithm. Also, consider becoming a subscriber, certainly, to the Sparta HQ Network. We got a show pretty much all week for you. Different shows, different topics, different formats, and so we appreciate you guys being part of this conversation tonight. The only thing we ask is just keep it clean. So again, as far as in the chat, no personal attacks, insults, threats. Avoid offensive language, including slurs based on race, gender, religion, sexual orientation. Be courteous and polite to other viewers. In other words, let's just be grown. Let's just be adults. There's plenty of that kind of stuff out there if you want to see it. But we try to keep it high class here, and just keep it about the conversation and not about pretty much anything else. So appreciate you guys certainly being here tonight on the show as we continue our conversation on intelligence. But before we get into that, again, we got it. So Coach kind of already went through his pies. My pies are pretty good. Physically, I'm feeling sore because again, yesterday was leg day, so I'm always kind of limping into this show because it's not the leg. That's about an hour. The soreness and the stiffness and all that kind of stuff, that's days. So, and it's always the day after that I'm always having the most issues. So I'm never feeling good on Thursdays. Let's just say that. And quite frankly, even when we do the sports show, I feel worse on Thursday than I do when we do the Wednesday sports show on the BMU network. So,
okay.
so I'm kind of I got to get through that. I got to heal up because Saturday that's my upper body day. So that's the bench pressing and all that other stuff. So that's coming up. So I gotta rest up and heal up for that. But I keep my workouts. I really try to do a minimal amount of work these days. But other than that, I'm feeling pretty good. I do have I got a doctor's appointment of my own towards the end of the month. Making sure everything is good there. But other than that, I'm feeling good. I'm in a good space, and things are going on. So for you guys, certainly in the chat, how are you doing in your pies? Physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual health. And we like to do a check on that every week because everybody talk about, oh yeah, I'm good, but what does that even mean? And so it's also good to have somebody who you can share that to. Do you have someone in your life who's be willing to sit there and hear you out in a non-judgmental fashion? You need those kind of people in your life as well. So hopefully you guys have those type of people you can connect to and that you can, certainly break bread with and encourage one another, in these times when there's so much crazy stuff out there going on, certainly need some encouragement as well. So, but again, I'm definitely looking forward to continuing this topic on intelligence. But before we get headline into that, as always, if you have any questions for us for the show, you can go to NXTGEN Training 101, NextGen Training 101 at gmail.com. Drop your questions in the chat. And, certainly any questions that we see there, we'd be more than happy to field them on the show. Any questions that you may have from myself or the coach, certainly we're more than willing to answer your questions. So, certainly drop your comments there. But we're continuing this conversation on intelligence. So, yes, sir.
Bennett, before you go into it, just based off this Ask the Coaches, right? So I'm going to put this same concept and apply it to us too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I speak to my wife often. You speak to your wife. I don't know if you see your children as often, but
they're all here. I can't get rid of them.
Okay, so it works perfect, right? And I'm glad I'm going to do this. It just came to my mind just based off the pies and things like. I'm going to, and this is an assignment for us. I'm going to get my wife, and we've talked about it sometime when I was getting introduced to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to sit down and have a conversation with her about pies, and ask her to check in with me based off of her pies, where she is in the moment. And it doesn't, and you can go history and present. And the challenge to you is the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
check in with your family, and we'll do a quick pie understanding. You understanding pies because now you know that I'm good word is a void word, and you can see the nuances and to see that how they also respond into it to get in tune with those. And we'll just check back in next week, and we'll just say how those conversations may have gone.
Mm-hmm.
Because pies ain't necessarily something that always works immediately. You know, some people may have to, like if I was in a group, some people would sit back and they may not go through pie understanding, but they'll give a check-in about whatever situation or condition they're in, right? But then pies, like you see, it sort of puts you in a position to have to go deeper and compartmentalize things about it. So I'm just interested to see those responses from the women in our life, because we talk pies and we're not talking. I don't know if you actually have to do it, but as far as talking pies to people that we know and love in that capacity.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. All right, I'll give it a shot. I'll start with the wife, and then I'll introduce it to the kids and see if they want to have a. I was kind of already using a little bit of it with my daughters, in that again we try to. In fact, I got to kind of get on them because I try to allocate time for us to go out.
Okay.
So it's kind of like daddy, daughter out, and we just talk, like, you know. But I think what the pies does is it gives you a framework to say, okay, we're just sitting there over some ice cream or whatever, or some food, and not barely talking about stuff. But it kind of gives us an opportunity to do that kind of check-in, and hopefully through the check-in, then we can get into more deeper conversation. So I want to use that message the next time, you know, whatever daughter's up next to go out. I know I'm going to a WWE wrestling match Saturday night main event. I'm going this Saturday.
Nice, man. That's pretty cool.
And actually not that next Saturday, not this Saturday, next Saturday. I'm going to a comedy club Saturday night with my wife.
So you got two major events coming up, huh?
We got a few things booked. But I enjoy, one thing I do enjoy going out, breaking bread with the family. Because sometimes the house, like, I don't know about you, but house is not always the most restful, peaceful place for me sometimes.
Okay.
Because there's always something to do. There's always something distracting or whatever. And like even today, I work from home. So sometimes I like getting out of the natural environment.
Yeah.
Just to kind of unwind a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, we go to a club, we go to a comedy club, we kick in, get some dinner beforehand. Or like I said, when I'm going to go out with my daughters or whatever, we can go to Starbucks, we can go to, Mexican restaurant, wherever they like to go. And it's just a way just to kind of unwind a bit, from just the day to day in the house. So that's the way I roll with it. So like I said, I will definitely use it with my daughters when we go out. And like I said, my wife and I were going out Saturday night, so I can definitely check in then. But I gotta tell you though, my wife is pretty consistent. She's probably the most consistent person that I know of. And she really doesn't hide a lot of stuff too. But it's like she's like a steady drum. So if I ask her for pies, how her pies now, I may not get a different answer from week to week or sometimes month to month. So it's like
that'll be interesting.
She is the model of consistency. So I mean it's I don't like, and that's a peaceful situation for me, because I don't have to worry. Sometimes you go home, you don't know what wife you're going home to sometimes, you know what I mean? So you have a good day, bad day, this day, that day, or whatever. But with my wife, she's kind of routine, you know what I mean? And like I said, people call us boring because, again, we just don't have a lot of drama. At least we try not to have too much drama in our lives. So like I said, I'm going to try it. I'll definitely report back next week. But what I'd be curious about is the week after this one.
Yeah,
if it'll be something different. If it'll be the same,
you don't know.
Being with her 30 years, I don't know, but I'm pretty. But I'll create the opportunity, and certainly for those in the chat, this challenge we can certainly offer it to you as well. Go out, certainly start with your spouse or what have you, maybe one of your kids, and try to implement this as a way of changing the conversation, or at least either at the start of your conversation, And don't just assume that, when they give you that one word, I'm all right, or I'm good, or whatever, that, like Coach was saying, that's kind of like an empty response sometimes. And allow people to, and also, be transparent, but also give grace for a person who may, be going through some things or whatever. Let that kind of flaw out as well. So I appreciate, Coach bringing it up as a challenge and a test, and I'd be certainly looking forward to responses from the chat next week. How to go with you in terms of that exercise? Did you implement the exercise, and see where that takes you? But thanks for offering that up, Coach. But yeah, we can get into this now, or you got something else?
No, man, let's get into it, man.
All right. So again, we've been dealing with this the topic of, again, the different types of intelligence, and this is in part due to, again, recognizing that not everybody learns the same, not everybody has the same interests or aptitudes, and I think that it's important that we identify these traits and characteristics in a person early, and that we feed into that train of thought, or those again, that type, to help them be better overall. That doesn't mean that other aspects of life, other things aren't important, especially in our current school system, which kind of works in a sort of a binary fashion. Again, it's either the math or the English or the written seems to be how most of our standardized test scores are these days. And so there's a lot of things that may be that they may not put a lot of resources in. And this is where parents, I think, certainly need to come into play to help feed and help to encourage and build these type of things in people, and especially in young people. And once you find out what your intelligence type is, like, how can you take some agency over your life, and things that you can do to ensure that you are in a good place, that you're constantly learning, that you're constantly engaging the mind, and you're not getting stale or whatever, or just thinking that, okay, well, my learning stopped at when I graduated high school or college or what have you. That this is also helping you to have an understanding that there's so many aspects of life that you need to sort of plug into. And so understanding who you are is an important part of that puzzle. So again, these intelligent types, just to kind of review what we talked about so far, certainly this gentleman here, Howard Gardner, he kind of came up with this matrix of these different intelligent types. And this model has been used, and certainly in schools and academia, it's been studied and researched, and people use it as tools to help anybody in terms of being able to let them understand that they have worth, and let them understand that, how they are is special and unique, and that there's value in being who you are, that you don't have to necessarily be a cookie cutter like everyone else. And that takes place in childhood, but even in your career path, to have these understandings or things that are important. So the 9 types of intelligence, we kind of laid these guys out, and we've been kind of breaking down a couple at a time. So again, we got naturalistic, musical, logical, mathematical, existential, interpersonal, body kinesthetic, linguistic, intrapersonal, and spatial. All right, so these are the ones that we, the matrix of the different ones, and we've kind of been reviewing. So again, you can actually go. There's a couple places you can go, to get information, just to kind of start the process. You can start this with a child, or you can take the test yourself. A couple different sites that are out there where you can go through a series of questions to help you identify, again, your interests. Things you may or may not have known about yourself. In fact, I'm just putting the one link. I just dropped that in the chat, so you guys can certainly click on that link and go here and go through this intelligence site test. That'll certainly give you some insights where at least maybe it can put you in the right direction, where you can start looking at doing some things. And then there's another one here. Another one. This is a 10 question test. You can certainly go here and go through a similar inquiry. But I would think, the one with the 40 questions, I'll drop that one in the chat as well. But certainly the one with the 40 questions that may have a little bit more nuance. So again, both links are certainly in the chat for your pleasure. You can certainly go there and check those things out. So what we've talked about so far, we've talked about, again, intrapersonal versus interpersonal intelligence. Okay, some people are sort of people smart. For the inter, you're good at interacting with other people. Some people are very introspective. They understand themselves well, their emotions, and they with that understanding, they can help other people understand. So we also talked about the type of careers that a person may want to pursue, the type of interests that a person may pursue. And if you're a teacher or if you're a parent working with a child, what type of activities engage the minds of individuals like these. And so I think those are important as well, because I've seen a lot of very smart kids. They know the material, but they're so uninterested in school because the school itself does not engage them, especially engage them in ways that goes to the type of personality that they have or the type of intelligence that they have. And like I said, the way schools are going now, where a lot of programs are being cut, they're cutting gym classes, they're cutting the arts, they're cutting music. So again, these gaps, I think, are ones that need to be filled if you want a person to be whole. And so understanding who you are as a person, and then again, in addition to, not as a substitution for, because you still got to pass the tests. Those tests aren't changing anytime soon. So you still have to pass those, but then how else can you engage and almost use it as a reward system in the way that, hey, if we're engaging you in these ways, then again, you may have a more interest in the work that needs to be done. Or if you get your work done, then you can engage more in the things that engage and stimulate your mind. And so having this understanding of these intelligence types, certainly hopefully is a tool and a resource. You can certainly go back over our playlist and, look over this series of shows and find the ones that, again, may go with your intelligence type, especially if you take those tests ahead of time. So the first show, we dealt with the difference, again, between intra and interpersonal intelligence. The next show that we did was on musical intelligence and body kinesthetic intelligence. That, again, people have certain aptitudes. We talked about last week. I said last week, Coach, I was a bit of a klutz as a kid. I ain't gonna lie to you. So I didn't have a lot of. Some guys just came out, just naturally had good balance, just good athleticism out the gate. Had a good understanding, picked up things right away. Even dancing, break dancing or whatever. People just had just a lot of things that, yes, they had to practice, but things just kind of came easier to them. And certainly you had people who, again, have a musical ear. They had some people even learn to music. I know students who can't study unless there's music playing in the background. So again, you have these types of intelligence also. And we talked about, again, the type of careers that one day could potentially pursue based on your giftings. And there's also the different types of activities that, again, stimulate these activities. But like I said, it's no substitute for the classroom. You still got to get your work done a lot of times if you want to participate in music. If you're not getting your grades, if you want to go to Juilliard, or if you want to go to pursue that as a thing, yeah, you got to get the work done as well. And so again, understanding these as an incentive so that students can certainly perform well. And so we go to the next one. Oh, before I go on, Coach, did you have any comments on the previous two sections?
I think it's important, as I've learned more about these over the years. I used to, once I was sort of introduced, I used to relay it to parents, right? Because it's important to identify what your child's gifts are early. And I used to, and you had to have a conversation about if your child is musically inclined or good with numbers or having these artistic skills, find education institution that focuses on that. Instead of, I've seen a lot of us trap the growth by forcing them into the public school, which is not going to focus on those gifts. It's, so it's just interesting, especially when children are young. They learn it a lot faster than my old brain does, and they're picking up on it because one is naturally gifted, and then once the practice comes in and starting going beyond the gift, just like learning to write music, learning different, musical elements, and learning to play different instruments. And I should one of the great example of that in music you saw with Prince and Michael Jackson, the
Oh
way
yeah.
they were able to sort of just
Yeah.
off the top of the dome.
Well, it's interesting with Michael. I think Michael I would actually give Michael more the bodily kinesthetic than the musical to an extent. Because, I mean, he was doing things at like 5 years old. He had James Brown moves like mastered at 5, and we all know the dance moves, the moonwalk, the way he was able to, he would learn dances like a lot of that. He learned the moonwalk from like street dances in LA or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, watching.
He would just pick it up, and he would just like you got guys who studied this stuff for life, right? Their whole lives. He could be there for a couple hours and boom, he's got it.
Yeah.
That's a different type of intelligence, or just to absorb that,
But initially you saw that, especially younger, but then in his older years, once he became like a young, I don't know if it was between a teen and being in his 20s, right? He learned the musical synthesizing part of it too. He was able to go in the lab.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So that was a unique trait in itself, right?
Yeah.
To be able to go from the dance moves, and he was always on beat with the moves. He looked more, I guess, more flashy than the rest of the guys, even as a young kid. But then when he was able to start creating his own little music based off the music he was hearing and his beat and rhythm,
Yeah.
I thought that was like, okay, he is the pop.
He definitely had a musical ear, no doubt. I would say probably Prince. I mean, I think he taught himself like 14 instruments or something like that. I mean, he was like another level.
Yeah, he was another level.
And he didn't have I know he has a little, shaking his tush on stage or whatever. He didn't have the dance moves like Michael. I'm saying Michael it was just different. Because I saw Michael, it's like I didn't think the human body could move like that. That's how he had me going. So again, understanding the value, and then what's also cool about these two in particular is again what you give to the world, what you can share with the world, your gifts and talents. It's not just for you, but it's to make the world better. Being able to teach and do dance or help people. We talked about with the body kinesthetic, getting into rehabilitation, sports rehabilitation, understanding how the body works to help people heal and recover from injuries. So again, it's what you can also give to the world through these different types of intelligence versus some of these other ones that are out there. But understand it's yours. And don't think that you always have to just go with the flow or go into a cookie cutter type of situation where you say, okay, you got to be a doctor, you got to be a lawyer, you got to be whatever. There's a lot of different careers that are out there that certainly that could benefit from your giftings. Not just playing music, but again, sound engineering. That's big.
Big. Right?
Audio mixing. I mean, you got to have a certain tune for that, and absolutely. So today we're going to be doing with again two more types of intelligence, and these will be spatial intelligence and naturalistic intelligence. Now these kind of caught my interest in part because the more I looked into this, I understood myself that I am definitely a spatial intelligent guy. Like the idea of being able to see the world through picture. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? I've always learned better seeing something versus just a long lecture, for example. Or you give me a 500-page book, coach, I don't know if I'll get through the first 20 pages before I go to sleep.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, but if you show me
some pictures,
what you're doing, now I can pick up on some things. And then the naturalistic one. Now, this one I'm ask you about because this is something that when I saw these pictures when I was, putting this together. I thought about this and I was just wondering how, I don't know if parents today allow their children to explore the natural world like maybe we used to.
Fact.
Like back in the day, you go out, you be in the woods, you be at the creek, at the river, maybe fishing or something. You picking up snails, you
Yes.
collecting, worms and fish and all kinds of things. Like you were part of it. Now it's almost like parents now, they don't want their kids out of their sight. But there's not that time for that naturalistic play. Just go in the backyard, go in the back or whatever, go in, don't, we used to say be home at a certain time, but you had a chance to explore the natural world. And now it seems like everything is artificial. You take your kids to Disney World, to Disneyland, you take them to the mall, you take them to the Chuck E. Cheese or whatever. But there's some kids, it's like, you don't need all that. Just take them just let them just play outside, And that to me is an aspect that I think a lot of parents, just out of fear or what have you, we had, that experience to check out the natural world, to be outside much more than what I'm seeing today. I don't know how you feel about that, or do you agree with that? That is something that parents aren't necessarily allowing their kids to be the explorers the way we might have had it in the 70s and the 80s growing up. What do you think about that?
It's interesting. I use these things as I look into my own life. Like, just about it. I can see the picture that's not presented when I was a young kid. The picture is not of the community being outside, going crawdad hunting. I was catching bumblebees and blackjacks when I was probably 5 or 6 years. I was holding, those big pickle jars they use today.
Yep.
We was catching bees and
Yep.
wasps in a pickle. Look, my little hand as a kid was holding the jar up in a way that I could take the jar in the top and catch the bee in the jar at the same time, right? So
Right.
again, and a lot of this was self-taught. I don't remember my parents taking me to the park and we looking at the nature wings. None of that. It was just something that we paid attention to, I believe. Being in the city, being in the parks, the June bugs, we used to catch them and put sewing string on their little leg and let them fly. We used to walk around with our little friend. They flying like a little kite. They can't go nowhere. We just hold.
Right.
And at the end of the night, we just let them go, catching the lightning bugs.
Yep.
Little lighting thing and putting it at girls used to put it as earrings. You try to see who collected the most. Those things really was just a product of being young and learning. It wasn't I don't remember us talking about how we felt about life and we dreamed. I remember just sitting around my friends sometimes just dreaming beyond where we were about when I grow up, I want to do this and this and this. Very few people were talking about being an athlete. We was probably reaching outside because I remember one time I said, when I grow up, I'm gonna be the president. Just having that aspiration just based off exploration.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think, of course, as you said it, those opportunities are not presented, but a lot of those opportunities are not presented by the adults.
Absolutely.
Try to control the
Yeah.
environment, which really, as they get older, it's very limited on how to survive in it.
Right. And it's interesting too, because even the girls were kind of into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, now if that snail there, if a snail was in the house right now, my girls would go crazy.
Yeah.
Dad, there's a snail.
Yeah.
Dad, there's some on the wall. Dad, there's But when kids, it was, guys would hang out with the girls. We'd be in the woods. We'd be out doing stuff, whatever. They would see it. They were into it as well. But if there's a spider in the bathroom, Dad, there's a spider in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So So it's like
we made
we've
life
been
so comfortable for them. We made life so
yeah.
comfortable.
And they don't understand that, again, it's part of the natural world that, again, these insects serve a purpose. In fact, that's a problem, actually, with the whole climate and whatnot, and some of the bees and what they do for pollination. And it's like there's an ecosystem there. So, you may think they're creepy, but they're needed in the world. And we need people certainly to study and understand the natural world. So we can, when things start changing, it's like, well, why aren't we getting the crops like we used to, or what's going on with that or whatever? Well, you need people who understand that stuff and are not afraid of a snail to go out and really see what's going on. So let's break these down. Let's get into the spatial, or what we call picture smart. And again, these are people that strengths, again, visualizing concepts, map reading, three-dimensional thinking. Again, they see in pictures. They see they have an idea of again, the literary or even the mathematical is not always going to apply until they can see it in that. You can write a long formula down, but if you can see it graphically, it's like, okay, now I see how that makes sense. Characteristics, again, highly creative, good at working with charts and graphs, enjoy drawing or building. And this is, like I said, this is me in a nutshell. I remember early as I can remember, I was always doodling and drawing. I would draw. I used to be into all the kaiju monsters. I draw Godzilla, King Kong, Rodan. I would draw them. I would draw superheroes. I would draw buildings, skyscrapers, jets. I used to love jets. And so I would get a picture book and draw like the SST jet, fighter jets. That was just my thing. I just loved those kind of things. So this is definitely more of who I am in terms of this type. As far as tools, mind maps.
Hold on, we gotta go back.
Yeah.
We gotta go back, right? Because this is a part of me.
Okay.
I like to build. I've always been a builder. I've always been a person that take things apart, build. I was going to ask in reference to your sense of direction. Do you know which direction you're going without your GPS?
Somewhat. I mean, certainly looking at the sun or where the moon is or whatever, that kind of, at least the east-west orientation.
Yeah,
I'm fairly good at that.
This was in the service. You go through a training where you have to navigate yourself up. I think it's about 6 miles off of just a compass and protractor or what we use. Right. Yeah, and I love that part, because I've always felt before that I knew which. I'm not going to get lost. That was my mindset. But then when I went through the training and actually completed it, because you got to hit 4 targets and they can be in a circle, right? Be straight, but that's the way they design it. And you're passing people who's lost. They don't know you can't really help them because you're trying to find your own. But I was really proud when I sort of just took what I thought I knew and actually put it to test. Mm-hmm. And it was 4 on 4 because you get 100% based off of your targets. And I've always used that, even just driving, going places. I'm gonna read a map first because I like to know what type of terrain I'm going over. Mm-hmm. If it's going to be some water, a bridge, if it's going to be a back road, I do that to this day. So yeah, it's interesting, man. I create, think about stuff. What I'm gonna do as far as a project that I might want to do. I'm good. I'm a construction type. Right. I admire the people who could draw. I used to draw the little car frame, but as far as the working with hands and charts, and I've always been into that part of it.
Well, it's interesting you talk about the charts and everything. 'Cause I know, like, if you have been to IKEA. Or just anything where you got the instructions, right? You got to put something together.
Yes.
More times than not, I can get about 90% of what I need just by looking at the pictures.
Yeah, just looking at the
They'll be talking, take part F,
Yeah.
map it to this and do that or whatever. I'm like, just lay it out. Okay, I see step by step, part one, step 2, step 3. I was like, okay, I see what they're using there and whatnot, and I just go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you just gave me just the verbal instructions, take the short screw, the 6-inch screw, plug it into side A. Well, what side A? Because it may not be labeled.
Right.
And so I'm like, let me just look at the pictures. All right, they got. So I credit IKEA because IKEA gives you good pictures, step by step by step. Boom. It's hard to go wrong, even if you think something's off. Where you can look at it and say that don't look right because based on what's in the picture. So as long as I got pictures, I'm good.
Yeah.
But you just telling me over the phone or whatever, yeah, I'm not good at how to. People try to. I try to help someone who may have a computer problem or something like that. And I'm trying to coach them over the phone, and it's like, that's sometimes difficult to do because it's like I gotta see it. So now they got it's cool because I can log into your computer and I can run it from my computer. So I'm much more. Let me at least let me see what you're doing so I can then step you through what's going on. But not being able to see something, yeah, that's always been a weakness with me. But again, that love of drawing, whatnot, and also building. Again, back in the day, in fact, just go to the next slide. Again, the teaching tools. I was into all this stuff. So you talk about puzzle games. Like I don't know if you ever use like a Rubik's Cube or Star. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But I was pretty good at those. Alexander Star was one I kind of like. That was like my thing. Like Alexander Star, I knew that when I could solve it. I would give it to my mom to mix it up, and I solved it in like 2-3 minutes. Boom, I got it. I just love that. Again, coloring books. Again, art books. Just doodling books. And then again, Lego sets. Building erector sets, the building blocks and whatnot. You build towers and bridges and all kinds of stuff like that. You gave me one of those for Christmas. I was in heaven. You gave me a rocket set, something that I had to kind of put together. I was in heaven. So these are the type of tools, and it's weird because everyone now you just want to give your kid a phone or video game or like an Xbox or something, but these kind of things here for the spatial type, they love this stuff. And so definitely if the schools aren't going to be providing you with this type of information or tools, then yeah, you get them yourself. But again, you would just get Lego and just let them go. Let them create. And it'd be amazed what people could just off the blue, just you making dinosaurs and making again, buildings, cars, I mean, all the stuff. And no one had to give you a guidebook. You just thought about it in your mind. You took the tools or the puzzles or whatever, and boom, you just made it. So even in this digital age, there's still room for things that, again, to put something in a kid's hand. You know what I mean? The little construction set with the hammer and the stuff that I forget, but it wasn't Bob the Builder, but it was some that came later. But there was like always these building construction sets.
Yeah, Tonka toys.
Tonka, exactly. Yeah,
toys.
Yeah, shovels. Again, go to the beach, do sand castles. Who does that? I mean, again, what kids are doing that today? You go with your pit, your pail, your shovel, and we go and build these sand castles. Back in the day, I would see some immaculate ones. I'm talking about, just elaborate structures made simply with sand and water. I mean, they used to have competitions, I think, for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of people with that kind of imagination anymore. Or you gonna go with your kid to the beach and say, we're gonna build sandcastle. What parents are doing that with their kids today?
Brother Bennett, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if our parents did it, because when I went to the beach, I wasn't building no sandcastles. I was in the water. I was swimming. That was a different. I don't remember too many people building sandcastles. It might have been the one that was very, good in this learning capacity. But yeah, I just never saw it. But
Mhm.
even in that, right? Like today, the digital design tools should be prominently taught in education today,
Mhm. Yeah.
along with the puzzle games, coloring books. Those are more, you know, elementary, fifth grade,
Right. Right.
third through fifth grade. Lego blocks, erection sets. That should be also through.
Erector sets.
Yeah, yeah, my bad. Yeah, erector sets. I don't want
Pause.
to. I don't want. Yeah, I don't want to use the wrong word on the erector set. I think that's good for especially young children. But as they get older, you can definitely improve it to the puzzle games. Like you said, the Rubik's Cube was a big thing back in middle school for us. Uh, the digital games, I remember having a digital pinball machine, maybe
Hmm.
about 12 inches long,
Yep.
about 8 inches wide. And I used to walk around the house playing it as a kid. And it was like a real pinball machine, but it was all digital. I
Hmm.
loved that thing. It had a nice little way to it. And yeah, so just seeing how we sort of ushered in that technological rush in a time when we were young, like preteens, and to see where it's at today, I think education should focus more on these styles, especially with the digital age learning style,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they have, we called it a whiteboard when I
Yep.
was in Indianapolis schools. We could actually do most of the learning in 3D. And in 3D learning, they were catching on quick. I mean, able to see it, and like you said, see it in your mind, and then repeat it and diagram it, draw the It was just unique to see. And I don't know if education from this time, we're talking uh, pre-COVID, right at COVID time, to
Hmm.
see if education has moved toward that type of teaching, because the old way of sitting down reading it, teacher explaining it to you, that way is becoming obsolete because teachers are not as motivated to teach, and the children are getting bored. So I think the more future has to be a little bit more digital teaching, more diagrams, and ability to use maps and numbers. I think that's more, uh, especially as you get older into your preteens on through high school.
Yeah. Hey, Coach, do you remember one of these?
Okay, let me see. Uh,
It's
that's a
called the.
is that a paint strip you got right
No,
there?
it's
Is
a
that
call. It's
paint?
called the snake puzzle.
No, man, I
And
never
so,
saw that, man. Why is
so
that?
again, so it bends. So it
Okay, I was
bends
gonna say
different
that.
shapes. So you can make,
Oh, I saw
just
it one time. I saw it one time. I
like
didn't. It was like,
rudimentary
yeah,
shapes. You can make cats. You can make dogs. You can
yeah.
make a ball out of it. So again, here's like a little animal shapes and whatnot. But I've always doodled with this. Even I'm working or whatever, I may just decide that I may want to do something, just play around with it. I've had one of these since I was a
Okay,
kid, and I still
okay.
doodle with it every once in a while. You can make a full 3D ball out of this.
And you know what that reminds me of, brother Bennett? You know the devices that they use today that they just hold and spin around and pop in bubbles. That was
Yeah,
a similar concept. That was, what I'm saying.
yeah,
I can see how those can correlate as far as occupying the mind,
right,
relieving stress,
right,
things like that. So it's
right.
unique how the transition it's changing, but really, has it changed that much?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And for me, the thing I guess, because you were talking about parents aren't necessarily doing that, or our parents didn't do it with us. I don't think they necessarily had to, but we just need to be around it. I think the fact that other kids were doing it, or you were with your big brother and he was doing it, you know what I'm saying, and you just gravitated to it. So I'm not saying that you buy all these things and your kid will be all into this stuff. Your kid may have no interest in this stuff whatsoever.
You know.
But that's why, again, you got to do that assessment. You got to understand what your kids are into. But if they do show certain aptitudes, certain things, they like to doodle, they like to draw, get them a small set of Lego box. You don't have to get the 2,000 piece Lego, but just let them play around with some things. And if you see them over there a couple hours later and they're still playing over there, then again, maybe get them another set. Maybe get them some more. But again, you feed the interest as it is. And if you do go to the beach, I'm not saying go with the intent of building a large castle, but just show them just basic things that they could do. Show them how to do it. And then a lot of times, just leave them alone. And then you may come back and be like, wow, what have you been working on all this time? So again, that's part of what these tools are for. Understand, recognize, as you see things, feed the interest. And just like I said, just give them one of these and be like, okay, play with this for a while and see how you do. And I used to be like, hey, look, Mom, look what I made. Oh, you made that?
What you made?
And you come back and what's that?
You made something right there. What would that be?
It's some animal, some four-legged animal. It could be a dog, cat, or whatever. Okay. I could make a ball. I could do this real quick. I could make a. So again, this is a straight bar. I mean, yeah, just a straight bar. Okay, so it's about 13 inches long, right? Mm-hmm. But I can make a ball, 3-dimensional ball, just out of this. Do some folds.
Man, they need to bring it to. They need to bring it back out today. For real.
So I got half of the ball made already. It's a sphere. So I just keep going, folding. See, that's most of it right there. Fold in. See, there it is. Spear.
It's pretty cool, man. Yeah. What's it called again, Brother Bennett?
It's called a snake puzzle.
Snake puzzle. So, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and get your kids a snake puzzle available. I'm not sure. It may be on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. It's all you get all kinds, certain lengths, certain sizes. Yeah. You can get. So but it's just something just to kind of doodle and play with. To get engaged, and like I said, I've always just found it something. I keep it on my desk. From contemplating something, I may just go and just start fooling around with it and make flower shapes and all kinds of different things out of it. So again, I think we need to give kids that and not just give them the device. You know what I'm saying? Don't just give them the tablet or the. I'm not saying those things don't have value or importance, but let them play. I think it's good. You got play with your hands. You know what I mean? Like, let your hands either draw or build, or, again, even when you're working at that Play-Doh, that Play-Doh putty, and you mixing things together, and you making shapes and people and things of that nature, I think all those things have meaning to a child's development. And so I would encourage those things and not just always going digital all the time or surfing or games, all the time. Let them get their hands on something. I think. But I want to just go to the last part of this here again. I want to show this because it talked about mind maps, and I wasn't sure people knew what mind maps were. This is kind of right up my alley. When I talk about the type of learner that I am, again, I learn more in pictures versus just reading something. If you can show it to me, I can get it. So with these mind maps, these are where you take concepts and you put those together and you learn how the world connects. Now, again, I use these in my corporate career because a lot of times you're working with different divisions, different end users or whatnot, and a lot of times there's confusion on the project because nobody knows what the other side is doing. Nobody knows or understands how their role, their data information feeds into ours and how these other entities get connected. And so when you put it into these graphical formats, it really helps you out to try to understand things. Here's another one here that talks about, again, if you want to understand English, again, English verb combinations and how those things kind of go together, and then examples at the end, sort of a step approach to understanding grammar You could talk to me about grammar all day, and I'll be like, I kind of get it. But if you show it to me like this, now the mind, the sprocket starts spinning when I can see it like this. One more I just wanted to show, this one here. Again, it puts everything kind of together. Flow, how information flows from one end to the other, the different groups that are involved, the ones that you have to engage with, the pieces of the puzzle. And again, I've seen a lot of people, you might even see this in the military sometimes, that sometimes organizations work in silos, but they don't understand necessarily how their work contributes to the whole. And so how do you build unity? How do you build this sense of collectivism that, hey, we might be in different spaces and doing different things, but it's all working towards the same goal. These type of maps and structures, when I've been in corporate, when I've had systems that I had to work with and I didn't quite understand how everything worked or why I was doing what I was doing, I would make my own. And here I am, I'm in this IT group and nobody is kind of like, I'm getting bits and pieces as a whole. So what I would do is I would start out with a map like this that I would create. And then I would then start sharing it with people throughout the different groups. And I would ask them, do I have an understanding of kind of how your piece works? And then I would go to another group and ask the same thing until I got this picture together that when I shared it with leadership, they were like, oh, this is really good because now everybody could be on the same page. And so that is why, I want to kind of highlight these things, because this type of application, this type of tool has been very helpful not only to my education, but also helping my organizations to be better at getting the 10,000 foot view of what's really going on. Because you can put your head down in your work and not understand where it's going. And so I've always used these, Coach, as a tool. But your thoughts on this? I mean, is this you? Have you these type of diagrams or flow diagrams, have they been useful to you in your professional life or your education?
Early on, they were, just having the opportunity to learn how the chart actually flows and things, and how some things can be, you learned on one side, but the application may apply a little different. So, yeah, I mean, I try to just, in working in a career, when you're working with people and minds who are learning, minds who are coming off of pain, minds who are coming off of so many different variables that can affect outcome. You have to be very sensitive how you sort of tap into each category.
Mhm.
And that's why, for me, not being confined to just teaching a subject, being able to have to introduce these things was always it wasn't a challenge. It was what I say. It was an adventure for me. I understood that dealing with people who may not be in the same mindset and who may be in different mindsets in different places in life, having to give a message and give information where, regardless of what side of the fence they're on, they can see a better outcome. So it came down from, and that's why I love compartmentalizing, work life from family life and friends like that. Because again, to get somebody to understand that they are the innovation, that their thoughts can go from negative to positive, certain techniques and things you have to go through. Now, in my mind, everybody should be able to think through this in my mind, but then reaching someone where they are and actually having to step outside of myself and show them the information beyond me and show them based off, if you practice these techniques over time, you will see an improvement in the area where you need to improve the most. And the other areas that may not need the improvement will even get stronger too, because there's another element of learning that you're allowing yourself to receive. And then a lot of times, and I'll be quiet on this, a lot of times when people get to the point where they realize that they have the ability, their ability to learn on their own kicks in, and the information, you can see the growth, and it doesn't take long, but the part where they see it for themselves, that's the most, I would say, is the challenging point, because they'll get to second guessing themselves. They they're not sure if they can do it because they never done it before.
Right.
Once I can push them off the ledge and say, no, you're going to do it. The way that they reward themselves is the thing that I was always proud of. See, now you understand that there's things that you can do at a high level,
Right.
and things that really won't apply to your achieving that. So if you can compartmentalize the two, focus on what can get you the results. And being, you know what I'm saying? So it's different when you actually, I don't know, talking about it is one thing, but having to tap into it for myself in real time, because I had to approach everybody different.
Right.
And that was the most challenging thing, because I had to be able to turn it on and turn it off in the drop of a dime without putting my feelings involved in it.
Gotcha. Just want to move on to the final piece here. Again, potential career paths. Again, architects, designers, pilots, navigators, artists, animators, again, digital, non-digital, photographers, astronomers. Again, these are interests for a lot of these type of people. And so, again, think about the type of career path you have. Again, it doesn't have to just be just one thing. There's a variety of different things that you can throw yourself into, again, based on your type of intelligence or the way you see the world. You can see the world in pictures, in projects and whatnot. And these are viable careers, even with AI and everything going on, that these are things that you could still do. So definitely, there's a myriad of, for those who have this type of intelligence, there's a myriad of areas they can go into, exciting things that they can certainly get into based on this type of intelligence. Now I want to move on to the naturalistic or the nature smart. Again, these type of people, again, they're good at, again, identifying, classifying, and interacting with elements of nature. That could be animals, that could be plants, bodies of water. Right, so anything in the natural world, they're good at that, and they have an affinity for that. Characteristics, get attuned to the environment. They love animals and plants. Easily notice patterns in the natural world. So again, but a lot of this interest starts young. A lot of, again, playing with those bugs and playing with those spiders and worms and stuff. All those things that everybody calls icky today, but they can't get enough of it. And so, again, putting them in the natural world. And I think certainly if you live in an urban environment, a lot of times we don't give the kids a lot of time to get out into the natural spaces. So, again, as far as, and the schools are definitely doing less of this now. We don't get outdoor recess to play the way we might have had it growing up. Everything's indoors. And that has even health ramifications. Vitamin D, we take vitamin D supplements, but you should be able to get most of your vitamin D from just being outside for 15 minutes in the sun every day. How many people are doing that? And so, in terms of how do we encourage people in this environment, again, we used to do one of my science, because I remember we used to go outside. We would do experiments outside. What happened to that? Outdoor exploration. Again, just let your kids A lot of these people, and again, a lot of these people living in these nice neighborhoods, safe environments, and every one of these people think there's the stalker just waiting just to scoop their kid up. I mean, it doesn't happen that often. But everybody, even in the nicest neighborhoods, you still afraid to let your kid go to the park or go to the brook or what have you. But I think we're limiting our kids' appreciation for the natural world. Everything is indoors, everything's in buildings, everything's artificial. And I think we're hurting them. Again, zoos. Now, we used to have school. I know my kids, sign a waiver form. They were going to the zoo, Philadelphia Zoo, Turtleback Zoo in New Jersey. I mean, that was like a natural thing. You went to zoos a couple times a year in grammar school to see the animals. But how often are parents taking their kids to the zoo or to a farm with farm animals, botanical gardens, nature walks or hikes or something? I mean, again, outside. We share this planet with all this fauna, with all these creatures. But again, you see a spider. Ooh, spider. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. Again, lab specimens, studying. I mean, again, some kids you might not have liked fetal pig class and science class where you got to dissect the frog and all that. Some people love that stuff. My daughter is in medical school. She loves looking at cadavers, human cadavers, animal cadavers. She loves that stuff. I'm like, yeah, you need to be a doctor because I would pass out looking at that stuff. Dead bodies, nah, no thank you. But she'll be told, oh, yeah, we looked at a heart today. We looked at a brain. I held the brain in my hand. I'm like, that's not my thing. But again, science experiments, lab experiments, again, telescopes to look at the stars, microscopes to look at these animals, these insects, when you put the insect under a microscope. I mean, again, who's doing that? How many parents would even think to get their kids for Christmas a microscope? Like back in the day now. But I think these things are important. Your kid likes to be outside. They love animals. Again, owning a pet even. That they have to take care of. It's like, all right, we're going to get this pet, but you better take care of it. You're going to get the hamster, the gerbil or whatever. You won't get the whatever it is. You got to take care of it. Teaching them responsibility. So your thoughts on these two, Coach? Anything that you would add or have a personal experience with any of these here?
I mean, I've definitely had a personal experience with microscopes. I remember my son was about 8 or 9. I bought him a microscope set and showed him how to use it. It was interesting. Zoos. I think I went to the zoo a couple of times. I love the botanical garden. That was one of me and my wife's first dates.
Oh, yeah.
Going to the garden. There was a time in Chicago once a year they had a large botanical garden I used to go to, and they offer little trinkets and treats based off the nature and different little entities. And we walked through there, and she enjoyed it. I was like, this, it was just a part of me. A lot of this, like you said, is just, I wouldn't know. Well, I couldn't say which one I favor the most, which one is mostly me. I've had love for all of it. Like I said earlier, just mentioning being outside. Even as an adult, I was in my 40s trying to go to the garden. Going through little garden scenes. If a city had downtown, close to downtown, taking pictures in that. I love being outside. I remember as a teen being outside real late, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and learning the stars. That was a big thing when I was a kid. Learned the Big Dipper, Little Dipper, and I look for them today. And I was just looking up the weather and how the weather's going to be moving through here the next couple of hours, next couple of
Right.
days. So I've always sort of been into that. Now, labs and specimens, this is where I think a lot of this just coming from schools at the time, having biology class and dissecting frogs, that sort of gave you an understanding. Not necessarily that you would like it and do it as a profession, but it gave you another level of, just nature and life itself and how those things break down to each component. And I think that's why I say the education system has to transition, because if they're not going to allow the opportunity to enjoy these type of learning abilities within a child, then the way America seems to be going is technology, the information stage, the digital stage. And if they're not educating young people to be the digital minded, then this is needed, but will it become obsolete? And what are they going to be teaching? Because the kids not going outside for and Brother Bennett, they do go outside for recreation. However, it's not as structured as we went outside to do recreation.
Mm-hmm.
We had some activities to participate
Mm-hmm.
in the going outside. Now they
Yeah.
can just go outside and walk around, sit
Yeah.
around a tree. There's nothing
Yeah.
really giving a sense of learning and working together. You know what I'm saying? Doing team activities. They're not pushing that in education. It's just a waste right now.
Right. Right. No doubt. No doubt. Shout out to Braxton Estate Fiend in the building tonight. Appreciate you being here. And I got my guy Eric showing in the building tonight again. Geology, collecting rocks. Yeah, absolutely. I forgot all about the rocks. Rocks,
Yeah.
minerals, rare crystalline structures. Absolutely. But that was just stuff you just did naturally because, again, the opportunity was there. But, again, how many parents today would just let their kids just go wander off maybe a couple miles from the house over to some spot where you have all that stuff? It's like, no, and it's weird now because you would think it would be easier because you got the GPS, you got the phone. So it's not like you don't know where your kids are. It's like just keep your GPS tracking on and you're good. But even then, I just think that there's just not the inclination for parents to let their children explore. And I'm talking about 8, 9, 10, 12 years old sometimes. And you still want to keep them close to the house, or you want them in sight where you can see them or something like that. You're afraid to let them out of your sight. Or it's got to be some structured kind of thing. Whereas before, it'd be like Johnny and Billy would show up on their bikes. They pick you up, and you guys go on your bikes, and you guys just go off and do whatever. Again, be home at 5, be home at 6, or whatever the situation called for. And so, so I think that, again, this is something that I think we need to certainly, just like with the other one with the spatial, again, you have to engage certainly young people, their curiosity, again, about the world. And if they have that curiosity about the world, then there's a whole lot of things that they can do. Just going into, again, the career paths, biologists, zoologists, conservationists, veterinarians. When my daughter goes to medical school, they got a veterinary school there. In fact, I asked her, why didn't you become, because she loves dogs, and certainly she loves our dogs. So why are you going to veterinary? And she was like, she's got too many allergies and whatnot. So again, know yourself, that you don't get yourself into trouble. But again, even landscape architects, just people who just xeriscape the land and put these things together, beach formations, golf courses. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just people who have an eye in terms of how to do the right mix of, you're putting this structure out there, but it's got to blend in with the natural world and the natural environment. So there's a whole lot of things that you could be doing with that kind of curiosity for nature. You can certainly be out there doing these kind of things. But as I said at the start of the show, Now, all these things are cool. You can love nature. You can love being out there with the snails and the rocks and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of these opportunities are not going to be available to you unless you pass what the schools are requiring of you. You cannot become these other professions if your math and your written isn't good. So I'm saying, so these are what the idea of this, the series that we're going on, again, develop and stimulate, one, your love of learning and your interests, but do the work necessary so that you can pursue those interests. Because it doesn't matter how much you love animals if you can't pass math. I mean, that's just not how it works. My daughter would not be in medical school if, touching the brains and all that kind of stuff, if she didn't, have a decent math and written score. That's just the way it is. And she's not going to stay in medical school unless she gets good grades on all her tests. So again, this is not a substitute. Yes, understand your giftings, understand where you are, your interests and pursuits, and pursue those things, but you got to take care of the work at the same time. And we're not trying to dissuade anybody from going in a different path altogether. We're going to talk next week about math and literary next week, because that seems to be the only type of intelligence that a lot of schools or the educational system in the U.S. is pushing. But you got these other types of intelligence also are just as important. I didn't even put on here, again, farming, agronomists, crops. There's a lot of science now in crops. Farmers aren't just, they're using IT now. They're using computers now to help them in their work. But again, how to yield, get the maximum crop yield. That's a science also. And again, that's also tied to sort of naturalistic way of looking at things. You can use some certain tools to help you do it better, but there's still people. I mean, farming is very much needed in the world, and so that's also something that is it's okay to pursue those things. Not everyone has to be a lawyer. Okay, we got some people may say we have maybe too many lawyers out there, but that's another subject. But Coach, any other career opportunities or anything that might be missing from this list?
I would someone like I see the show Insane Pools, right? Someone who can look at the landscape and see how to design something within the land. And I think people underestimate the value of landscape architects. I really do. And a lot, even with all of these, if you was to choose a career, let's just say they are avenues to have a career in, but it starts with the basics. It starts with the introduction to almost everything that we talked about. Because again, you have to be sufficient in numbers. You have to be able to read certain charts. You have to be able to read maps uh, and figures and things like that. So I don't see the future of people looking for careers going in this direction.
Mm.
I don't see people, doing that. Veterinarians make a lot of money. The pet industry is almost $1 billion industry. So anyone looking to make some easy money, if you like pets, definitely look into that. Um, Zoologists, I don't know. Again, I don't see people understanding nature and animals and working in a zoo and being out in nature, watching the grass grow 5 inches, and it's just a whole lot of things and biologies, and it would be interesting to see the future of education, young and old, over the next 50 years,
Mm.
because I don't see people being introduced early enough, and that's
Right.
where education has to change because
Right.
if the education is not going to introduce these things early and often by giving young people intelligent tests, I would say at least by 6th grade, that should be a part of the curriculum in the country.
Right.
But they force these kids under the public education, and kids don't get an opportunity to explore different, uh, I would say, just different. I'm looking for the word, man, attributes about themselves, or qualities, or natural gifts that they can uncover just by being able to be introduced into these type of tests. So it's gonna be interesting to see, man.
Yeah. But to your point, though, it's a catch-22 as well. You're saying that you don't see necessarily a future for some of these.
No, I didn't say that. It's just that the education is not teaching the future for
Right. And I'm saying that's going to be a detriment because, again, if we get a shortage of biologists, zoologists, conservationists, and whatnot,
shortage.
it's going to hurt us, the planet, down the line. You know what I'm saying? I mean, these are needed skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not going to be, bringing up the next generation of these types of people, and we talk about, I said, the bee shortages and why we need bees, right? we need, they're the natural pollinators. We need worms. We need, certain animals that fit in the ecosystem that keep everything going. And I think one thing, certainly in the 70s and the 80s, one thing that we learned with all that industrialization, we hurt ourselves big time. We hurt the ozone layer. We hurt, the natural resources, why fruits aren't as big or even taste the same anymore. We use too many chemicals on the plants, a lot of artificial things that have been introduced into the environment. The pollution, what it's done to our waters, what it's done to our oceans, what it's doing to our fish. I mean, all that, and with a population that has grown by billions in the last 30, 40 years. I think 40 years ago, there was like 4 billion people. Now I think we've doubled our population since then.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying it's like 8, 9 billion people now. And so again, there's unless we start to get an understanding of these these things in nature and how to go forward, and not always necessarily think about capitalism all the time. How do we make money? But then understand that there's going to be a price to be paid for that. Yep. So we gotta expose people to these things and let people know that no, these are important things, and if you have an aptitude or passion for these sort of things, there's more than likely there's a career opportunity out there that's for you.
Yes, Brother Bennett. I as we were talking about the careers, I looked up on the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Median pay for a zoologist with a bachelor's degree coming out is $72,000, $72,800. So I would think, as someone 22, 23, it's not at the top of the pay scale, but I would think that'd be a great starting point.
Yeah.
And as you get the experience over the years, some of those top zoologists are making well over 6 figures.
Absolutely. And you already talked about veterinarians. I mean, those guys make some serious coin. And it's not just about pets. I mean, you work at horses and all kinds of, animals that require veterinary services as well. So that's what a bank is. You take care of a horse, you're definitely gonna make some money. So this is, like I said, this is going to conclude as far as for these two types of intelligence. Again, the naturalistic and the spatial forms of intelligence. Again, we want to kind of give you guys, like I said, just an overview of these different types that are available. And we encourage you to take the test. Again, if you go into the chat, I posted the links to the tests that are available. Certainly, if you want to take it for yourself, you can. But again, share with a young person, share with your child if you have one, and try to get it into their minds a little bit and follow their interests. You look at these kids in the picture here. If you see your kid likes playing with the worms and whatnot, I mean, yeah, you want to be sanitary. You don't want to bring disease home, but don't necessarily say, "Oh, don't touch that." I mean, let them get into the things that they can get into, and because again, all these things are important, certainly at the end of the day. But stop sharing my screen. I think we can get into final thoughts. Certainly at this point. Again, next week's show, I think we're going to be dealing with the linguistic and the mathematical, which again tends to be the kind of the norm in terms of what educators are valuing in the society today. But we certainly will go over it, and then we'll have one more after that, the existential. That'll close out the series. And but I certainly, this one I particularly enjoyed because again I found myself certainly in those spatials, because I was like, everything I read about, it's like, yep, just check off the check off the box, and I found myself in the descriptions. So but with that, certainly your final thoughts, Coach.
No, man, this was a good show, man. Good topics, man. I enjoy learning things about just overall in general purposes and how those things can apply to me, man. So yeah, I mean, I look at these, I guess, so-called tests that were created based off learning styles, and I appreciate being able to tap in all of them and not just be forced into a box to do certain things or not be able to do certain things. I always took pride in being able to do things for myself, as far as putting it together, picking it up, setting it down, breaking it down, reading the instructions on how to do it. I've always took pride in that. So, yeah, when I'm faced with the actual definitions and concepts of it, I would say I was pretty average, well, in fact, let me change it. I would say I was above average, and it sort of showed in my ability to think and stay out of trouble and make some decisions for myself. Just in life in general, things I need to do to better my life, things to avoid, things to let go of, and I've always pretty much been even keel with that. So now, talking about these topics, I'm only pretty much looking back, like, where did that come into a play in my own life? Looking forward, I just know that it's a part of who I'm going to be, and that's how I'm going to make decisions. So for anybody who's looking to learn a different path and have the openness to continue to learn different paths, hey, if you got to go back to this test 2 or 3 times, don't hesitate. It's not just, a one-stop shop. If you have children and they seem to be all over the place, you might have to give each test. And I would recommend giving these exams separately. Give them to them separately, not all at once, and just watch their behaviors after that. Every 6 months, especially you got a 3rd, 4th grader, 5th grader, and they seem to be getting a little bit more rambunctious around the house because they're looking for things to do. So learn by what they're doing. They're going to be watching you. And if they see you trying to put together a puzzle, they may just join in and be able to bring their smart intelligence to the table, and you all complete the puzzle. And anytime a young person is able to complete something with their parent, it's probably the greatest motivator that person can ever have at that time.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, we certainly want to thank you guys for certainly being part of the conversation tonight. Thank you for the chat. Looking forward to, my man Eric said, look upon my face hugger. Yeah, hopefully we won't have any aliens or alien invasions, although an octopus is pretty close. But But, certainly we appreciate you guys being part of the chat tonight. Just make sure before you leave the show, make sure you hit the like button on the way out. Certainly helps the show. Also consider becoming a subscriber to the Sparta HQ Network as we continue to give you content that comes out every week. Certainly the future schedule for the rest of the week. Again, we'll be back on Sunday with Gray Area, Sunday night, 9:30. And topics are still being finalized, so you guys will find out the day of the show, that day, what we're going to be coming up with. But we got a series of shows on the Gray Area that's going to be coming up. Then you're going to have Monday Night Wrestle Talk, Tuesday night's Spartan Arena, and surely Wednesday night is the Hangout, and then we'll be back with part 4 of this series on intelligence here on Next Gen Training. So certainly looking forward to having you guys with us. So certainly for myself and the coach, this is Next Gen Training on the Sparta HQ Network. We appreciate you guys being here. So for myself and the coach, take care. God bless. And we will see you next time. Good night.